Yo. So let me answer the question of should you stop doing content to start running ads for your clients to get them better results because currently content isn't working. Well, the first thing you have to understand is like, well, what is the point of doing content versus what is the point of doing ads in the first place? What are the expectations of both? And while the goal with them is more often than not usually the same, right? The goal with ads is to get more leads, get more sales calls, book more customers, close more deals, make more money. Same with content. I get out to more people, get more attention, get more traffic, get more calls booked, close more deals, make more money. While the dream outcome is definitely the same in most spaces, right? Granted, now some people do content just for status. Some people run ads just for X, Y, and Z. There's outliers, but we'll say the general rule of thumb or the general idea here is, hey, we're running ads or doing content to get leads so we can make more money, right? That's what most people do. Otherwise, they wouldn't do something if they don't get an ROI from it. Now, that being said, once we understand that, the next thing we have to dive into, or I guess kind of digest the concept of, is okay, what was the expectation going into this? Right? What was the expectation of when we started working with a client saying, hey, we'll do content for you to get you XYZ, or hey, we'll run ads for you to get you XYZ? What was the expectation? Because if the goal was to purely just get leads, the person has to understand that while doable with both, the way in which it'll happen is very different in both of them. What I mean by this is with ads, simply put, all you got to do is if you're like, hey, are you cool spending a money testing to see what works? Then we'll dial it down, double down on what works, and then just get a ton of leads, close a bunch of deals right away. Yes, cool, awesome, great. And if they're like, no, I don't really want to do that, then the content route, which is, hey, listen, content can get you a ton of deals. And it'll get you a ton of deals. It'll compound. It doesn't take as much time. It doesn't take as much money. The people are more qualified. They have higher intent. The buying cycle is lower because people are more qualified and know more about you before they come to book a call with you. Everything about the actual prospects themselves are better about content. The downside is it takes a long time. Right? Well, obviously with content, it takes a really, really long time just for content to kick in, right? Just to even understand, well, first, who was our ideal client? Then how do we get out to them? And how do we get out to them at scale? Then how do we convert them? And there's a lot of different things that go into content to make it profitable, right? To make content, like making content profitable, you have to do a variety of different things that just ultimately take a bunch of time, right? You can't really just skip the line with content. It's more of you got to just put in the reps. And so if you've put in the reps over time, it'll pay off, but it's definitely not a quick win. It's not like now granted, I don't say it's not a quick win because there definitely can be quick wins. You definitely can get a viral video. You definitely can start to get a bunch of people to the community, or you definitely can close more deals right away. Typically speaking, generally speaking, for most people, content will take months, if not years, to reap the fruits of that labor. Okay, and so the thing we have to understand is that, okay, if we're doing content, that's great, and content, while I think is better than ads in the long run, for depending on the business model and depending on the person doing it, can be amazing, right? And more often than not, we're seeing a huge shift where content is better in context. Hope that made sense, okay? But I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, what was the expectation? Because content, while may be great, may take a long time. So if the person doesn't want to wait that long, then ads may be better. And so here's where the question of, do I run ads or do I do content is like, well, it depends. And that's it's the two words that people hate hearing is it depends, because like I want an answer. But the only way to truly answer that question is, well, it depends on the context, and you'd have to know more about the specific situation in order to give good advice. Because for some people, if you looked at their business or you looked at what they're doing, it's like, well, obviously ads would be better because they're making no money, so they need to close more people right now. Other people, it's like, oh, they're already making good money, but they want to add, they're not getting as many qualified deals, or they're selling a super high ticket program, or perhaps they would benefit from having a community, or whatever the case may be. Content may be the better lever to pull. And so here's where you walk into this gray area of like, well, what do you pick? Do you pick content? Do you pick ads? Do you do both? Well, granted, doing content with ads actually makes the ads perform better. Right? Like if you, and vice versa, right? If you have really good content and then you run ads, when people click on your profile, when they see you, when they search you, you're more searchable, you look more established, so you look better. So if you want to make your ads run better, have content on your page. That makes it perform better, okay? And then vice versa, when you're running ads, you get people to click on your profile, and so you get more followers that way. So they go hand in hand with one another, okay? So ideally, in an ideal world, we could do both. Right, because they're both amazing. Now, we could take different examples from many different people and like, look, Alex Moser, well, he used to be one of the best marketers of all time, go to 36x ROAS, like, oh, that's crazy. Now he doesn't run any ads and he just does all organic. But that's the context of his business and the context of, well, he has 2 million subscribers. So when you have 2 million people watching you on a day-to-day basis, you don't really need to run ads, especially not for what he does, where it's not really about volume, right? So here's where we talk about context again. Because, for example, if you run a SaaS, while content is amazing, running ads is also something very necessary, because for you, it's a volume game. It's just getting out to more and more and more people because you can sell everybody. Whereas for Hormozi, he cannot and will not sell everybody. He can only work with a handful of people at any given moment. And so therefore, he doesn't really need all his volume. He needs the people that apply to work with him to know him, like him, trust him, and basically just want to work with him. And so therefore, it's like, well, of course Hormozi is going for the organic route, because he's partnering up with people, acquiring their businesses, and helping them scale. Now, if you just put out an ad and said, hey, looking for a business doing $1 million a year, we'll partner with you, hopped on one call and tried to close them, that's not going to work. The only reason why Alex Hormozi is because of the content he's posted. And so here's where we come into this dilemma of, well, what do we do? And the best way to answer the question was, well, in context. In what context are we in? Then what should we do? Right? If your client or your service or whatever, and you're like, man, I just need to get volume in. I need to start closing clients now. I don't care about the long run. Okay, well then, from what you've told me and what it sounds like you want to do, what you need to do is, sounds like you want to do ads because you want the quick wins. You just want to start closing clients. All you care about is volume. You don't really care about the long term. You care about now. But if you're like, hey, listen, man, I don't care about closing deals for the next 2 years. I understand the power of audience. I understand the power of owning the attention. I understand the power of compounding. I understand all this, man. I already make enough money. I don't need to close any deals. I just want to put out content, and then heck, in a few years from now, maybe the fruits of my labor will pay off and I'll be able to collect what I've put in. And it's like, well, for that person, ads maybe doesn't sound like the play. So perhaps content is the play. And so here's where I say we walk in this gray area of like, well, do we do content or ads? And the answer is, well, it depends. And so whether you want to answer this question for yourself, whether you want to answer this question for your clients, the answer is always going to be it depends, because there's always going to be outliers in different scenarios in which, well, this will be better for that. And so that's why I can't give a general rule of thumb of like, well, you need to do this, because at the end of the day, it's like, well, it depends. Right, which is people hate hearing that. They want a definitive answer. But there's sometimes in life where it's like, well, either or could work depending on the situation. And so I know I haven't given a full, entire, in-depth explainer of like, oh, you need to do this. But that's because at the end of the day, choosing content or ads depends on the variables and depends on the goal that they want and the expectation as well. Right? Obviously, it is just the nature of content is it's harder to get results. It's harder to guarantee results. It's slower to get results, X, Y, and Z, than ads. But then there's also pros. Everything in this world has pros and cons, and so you just got to weigh out which one do you feel like doing. And so that is the best way, I guess, to kind of answer that question of content versus ads. Which do you do, if not both? And as a matter of fact, like I said, context is everything. For agency owners, I recommend, it's like, well, you definitely need to do content at a bare minimum, right? Because content makes your cold outreach perform better. Content literally makes everything perform better in an agency. Somebody goes to search you, boom, content. Somebody hears about your name from referral, boom, content. Somebody goes to search up a question in your niche, boom, your content pops up. You made a post about it. You name it, right? You're going to outreach, boom, they see content on your page, you look more credible, you look more authoritative. And so content is huge, but then you could also argue, well, ads would be really good as well, because you can scale really quickly with ads, right? Whereas content, you can't just step on the gas with content. It's like, oh, you can put out more content, but that's not necessarily scaling. And so you see where we get into these barriers, because like ads, you can control the budget, just put more budget in, boom, done, right? But then there's also the flip side. I was like, okay, what if your ad account gets banned? Boom, all your acquisition is gone. Or with content, right? You see where we kind of get into this dilemma of like, well, they're both good in context. And so the way I'll wrap this video up and finish this off with saying is, you should choose doing content or ads based on the variables that I've discussed today and more as well, that basically define which would be better for you. And sometimes both may be the answer, right? Because like I said, they supplement each other very well. And so the answer could be both. But if you had to pick one, I would look at basically, what is your goal? What are the expectations? What are the variables? And based off of that, I go, okay, well, let's do this one or that one. So I hope that this kind of gave a decent insight onto whether or not you should stick with ads, whether or not you should go, or vice versa, whether or not you should stick with content or whether or not you should go with ads. And truth be told, It depends on your current situation. So if you want to send me your like the specific context that you're talking in, like what are the variables, what are the goals, what are the expectations, all these things. From there, we can further kind of define. Okay, we should definitely go this route. But yeah, hope that this was informative and valuable. Let me know, and yeah.